Hello everyone, I'm very happy to interview Janice today. I'm Anu. I've heard a lot about Janice and you were telling me about how you got started in all this quite unexpectedly. Could you share about that?
Yes, I was director at the Crisis Pregnancy Center, full-time volunteer director for about 6 years. And I just felt like it was time to leave that position. So I resigned, and about a week later, a lady called me and asked me to come and work in the senior living facility as her assistant, part-time, temporary. So I thought, I can do that. I've never had any experience with seniors. So if I had just applied for a job like that, I would never have done that. But because it was part-time temporary, I thought, well, I'll just go help her out for a little while. And I ended up working in the industry over 30 years. So it was a God thing for sure. And that's when I pray, God, just direct my steps.
Sometimes you're just meant to be where we end up, right? So I'm curious. So tell me, what do you think is in your personality which makes you good at what you do?
I had a love for music, so my degree is the bachelor's degree in church music. And music, theory, it says it's theory, but it's kind of like math. It is math, a lot of it's math, but you have to do it exactly right. Of course, that lends itself well, I guess, to any business because there are so many legal aspects of interactions, just so many things that I feel like I had a cumulative foundation for senior living.
What are some common misconceptions?
Well, there are several different types, of course. There are non-medical, there are different levels of medical. And most of what we do is on a social model, it's not a medical model. And so my goal was always to allow my residents to live like they did when they were 50 years old. So I brought everything into the community that I could that was going on outside the community. Or we would just take them out to whatever they happened to be. And we respected their privacy. I was privileged my first 8 years to take care of people that were my neighbors, my family, my school teachers, just the community. I knew these people. So I knew their value, and that helped me a lot establish my value.
What is one thing you think seniors can learn from the younger generation?
Well, they can stay young or think of themselves younger with young people. Young people are more fun-loving, I think. The older generation is very self-centered because they have a lot of loss in their life. They've lost a spouse usually when they come to us. They've lost their privilege of driving a car. They've lost their home. The younger generation in our facilities, a lot of times, they'll play music. They may dance in the dining room, just things to entertain them.
Be spontaneous.
Yeah.
Tell me, Janice, what are some of the things you like to do outside of work?
Well, of course, I have a family. I have 3 sons. 2 of them are pastors, and one is a church deacon. So I'm very proud of them. They're community leaders. They're as passionate about serving as I am. And of course, my husband is pastor as well, so he is too. I've just done various things over the years. One thing, of course, is my baking. I enjoy entertaining. I've done several volunteer things. One project that I did was entitled Who's Packing Your Chute? I'll just tell you how it started. I was teaching a Sunday school class. I had a young man who was the quarterback of his football team, and he rescued a girl who had tried to take her life. And when he told me that story, it was like God was pouring into me, Janice, I want you to do a countywide retreat or event. All the detail of it was just pouring into me. So, but what happened in his situation, and he just kept saying it was God that I was there. So I'm thinking, these kids have such a battle, and we do not know what they're going through. Some of them live like my children do, but most of them do not. I have learned in my lifetime that your mind is a battlefield. Most of your problems are going on in your mind. So that was pretty much the theme of this event, that your mind is the battlefield. So the battlefield took on a whole life. We had the adjutant general was a member of my church, and he had resources in the National Guard, so he was able, we decorated this recreation field with tanks and army trucks.
Nice.
We had a real parachute for backdrop. It just went on and on, the things that we were able to pull together. The man who ran Chick-fil-A furnished our sound, our lights. The school furnished our stage. It was unreal. Everybody that I talked to about that event said, "What can I do?" And so I probably worked on it maybe 5 or 6 months to get it put together. Even gave them pizza. It just went on and on and on. That was the whole point, to address suicide and the battles that kids have. Thoughts just came pouring into me when I was talking to him. I've talked to him several times over the years since then. He's now a youth pastor.
Oh, he is. So tell us about the retreats.
Employees a lot of times are not well educated. They don't have high paying jobs. And of course in our industry, we're not the highest paying industry. So I would see a lot of things that they were dealing with financially, dealing with at home, dealing with emotionally, the battlefield of the mind thing. And I kept thinking, how can we help them? And it be a truly way of helping. Decided to start doing a retreat. And the first one, it wasn't like I'm going to do this forever. It's just the first one we did this, and then it just every year we started doing it. I guess we did it 6 to 7 years in a row, and with different themes. One theme we had different games and things going on. We had the event venue had a creek going through it.
Okay.
So we had a little duck race, a rubber duck race. We had a scavenger hunt, a treasure hunt, and I actually brought a bottle that I created that had a treasure map in it. So everybody had their treasure map and an invitation, and so we just tried to make it fun. But it was a motivational retreat, and our speaker she was so good because of her background. Mm-hmm. She could relate to them and the things that she had gone through, and they would say, if she can do it, I can do it. And that was the whole point. People can succeed. They can rise out of whatever situation they're in if they really want to. A lot of these girls, they'd never been on a vacation before. And they were just so excited all year that we were going to take them somewhere and do something special. And
excited.
Yeah. And so we would rent a cabin. And so, again, those things just fell into place. It took planning, it took work, and it took money. But it was worth it. Those girls knew we cared about them.
Janice, what have you gotten out of working with seniors?
With seniors, it's something different every day. Just hearing their stories, their backstories. It was always fun to ask them how long they dated. Usually it's like we had one date. But just hearing their stories is a lot of fun. I had one lady who was a moonshine runner. Do you know what moonshine run?
The drink?
They made, yeah, but it was illegal because it was non-taxed whiskey. So she would run or drive it. And she told me she bought her mother and daddy a house with the money she made. Yeah, it's just rich, the things you learn from them and learn of their sacrifices. And you realize, hey, I don't sacrifice anything. I don't give up anything.
Someone who has aging parents, mm-hmm. What are some of the ways seniors what are some things they could do so that they could stay in their home longer?
Just make sure they're safe to start with. Okay. Like in their bathroom, you put handrails in their shower, put handrails beside their toilet, you get rugs out of the bathroom. Just look at it. Is there a trip hazard in this room? And of course, in our rules for senior living, the state requires that they don't have like drop cords in the floor or space heaters and that kind of thing. But just enable them to stay at home as long as they can. Keep watch if they're living alone on what they're eating. I had a person tell me one time he visited his daddy because a lot of people were separated by miles. Oh no. Visited his daddy and he found out he was eating out of the trash can. So, and holidays are a wake-up call for families when they see their parents and find out some of the things that have been going on with them.
America's Greatest Generation. Tell us about that.
Well, of course, that's the people I've cared for all these years. Many of the men have served in military. They're very patriotic. They have strong family values. They have strong spiritual values. One particular situation, I grew up in a little country school, had a teacher that came there. He had retired. So the county he lived in, I guess they didn't have a position for him. He decided he still had plenty to give, he and his wife both. So they came to the county I lived in and taught my 8th grade year. And I wrote a book called Anchored, Closing Life Challenge. And I mentioned him several times in that book because things that he taught me, I still remember. I'm 73 years old, and I still remember things that he taught me in the 8th grade. And it was things, to help us take care of ourselves and just to ground us, I guess you'd say.
So now that you're retired, what do you miss most about working full time?
My life is so filled with a lot of things. And when I wrote my book, I had retired.
Okay.
So the main characters are elderly people in my book, and a lot of it's things that I've learned from them. One in particular, I had a resident who prayed all the time. He would sit by the elevator and pray for somebody that came by. You could hear him in his room praying downstairs in my office. And so he was in my book. But you just meet a lot of people over the years. If you stay in senior living a long time, you meet a lot of powerful personalities and impressive people.
So what would your advice be for someone who's going to retire soon?
Find something to do to volunteer. I volunteered at the chemo center for a year after I retired, but COVID hit and they stopped the volunteers from coming in. But you want to feel useful. And of course I have a family and I have a husband, and so I do things for them. But
Women, face it differently than men, or it's all the same?
well, they are all facing health challenges. They would be at home if they could. There's no doubt. And like I said earlier, they've given up so much. So they're grieving. We can't do a lot about that, but I've learned in grieving, if you can do something in memory of the person, that's very helpful. Because that, I guess, magnifies that person's legacy.
It was wonderful talking to you, Janice, and I learned so much about your varied activities and interests that you have, all your contributions to work, but above all, you're such an awesome woman for doing what your heart says. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. It's just the grace of God.